Hey, that's a series win.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by TurboTax. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert. All right, Landon, like I said in the intro, it's a series win. And we said they had to go 3-1 this past week at the minimum, and I guess they did. So, what's your thoughts?
I mean, they got the win. Some of the issues that we talk about all the time, like with their errors, they cropped up. I mean, the only clean game they played was the Sunday game. The other two games, They had 2 errors each against South Carolina. And, you know, when you drop the series opener, when you have Pico on the mound, you're just, I mean, you're like, here we go again. Here we go again.
Well, but I tweeted right then. I was like, Lamona should not be the coach the next time they step up that bat, because that was such a pathetic performance to start the series.
Yeah, game 1 was so rough. And, I mean, you jump out. I mean, you get that 3-1 lead going, and then you don't score again. I mean, how do you just – I know that happens in baseball, like, probably more often than any other sport, where you get a big early lead and then you just slowly watch it fade away. But it's just rough when you like haven't been able to buy a conference win, and then you get that 3-1 lead and you just watch it fade against a team that you are better than.
Well, you're right on the money. That happens a lot in baseball, and you lose to inferior opponents in baseball all the time. But like you said, it's one of those things that you've been struggling so much that it can't happen. You just can't let that happen. And it was kind of the reverse of what happened on, what was that, Tuesday, when they faced Memphis, where they, fell down early, then they rallied and they came back and won that game. I think they fell down 3-0 also, and then scored 5 straight to ultimately win that game. And then this game was the direct opposite. You start up 3-0, it's looking great, and then they rally and get 7 straight on you. And, it was just a pitiful performance in that game. Yeah. And it made you worry, like, okay, are we about to lose another series here?
Yeah, I mean, Pico didn't, he was still good, wasn't great, but he gave you a chance to win. Wild pitch from him and the other pitcher that came in. I mean, the fundamentals on this team are just what blows my mind. Even when there's a win, it's like, this is an ugly win. Like, you don't feel good about it. But I mean, hey, you don't apologize for wins, but they still not playing clean.
Well, and that's coaching. That goes back to coaching. And again, it goes back to what I've said before. You're either coaching it or allowing it, and both point at the coach. So you're either not getting your point across as a coach, and I'm not saying they're out there teaching them to do errors and throw wild pitches and all that. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is you're either not getting your point across when you're trying to coach and help them and do that, or you're allowing it in terms of you're not getting on to these guys when they do it and have a consequence where they have to come out or something. And I get the NIL era. You have to be a little sensitive to some of that stuff, because you don't want a really talented player to lose all confidence and then hit the portal and then you just lost him for his career. I get that. But your job is to win baseball games, and especially this season, we've gone over Lamona's career, and we've talked about what it's been like since he last won or since he won the national championship. This season is pivotal, and you can't just let your season go down the tube because you're worried about a player leaving for NIL.
That's right. And, they did win the series, so, maybe we should act like they won the series a little bit. But, hey, after that first game, the bats really woke up. I mean, you put, 11 up in game 2 and then 6 more in the third game.
Right.
That's great. The bats woke up, and if you're going to hit like that, then maybe this is the start of something. Maybe this, season's turning around. You have UAB coming up. That's a winnable game. Just start stacking the wins.
Yeah, you got to win that one, because again, now you're going on the weekend, going on the road this upcoming weekend to Alabama, and they're one of the better teams in the country as well. So it does, like, that's why we said it was so important to go at least 3-1. Really, you should have went 4-0. So that was brutal for you, but maybe you can get hot now and start racking up some wins like you talked about. And maybe this can be something that kind of turns the season around, especially, like I said, these last 2 games. Because after the Alabama series, again, if you can go take 2 from Alabama or maybe go 1-2 against Alabama, you get Samford, and then you get you get Southern, and then you get Florida back to back. And Florida's not a great baseball team either.
No, they're not. And yeah, they're kind of setting themselves up to start getting some momentum going. If they can clean up the little things, the bats stay hot. The pitching seems to be coming around a little bit more.
Right.
It's not like the other guys not named Pico seem to be showing up more and more and more. And which is great to see that, that there's other people you can rely on. Another great relief performance in the second game, 4 innings of scoreless relief, and then, shutout on Sunday. So pitching starting to get better. The bats are waking up. You hope that it's a sign of things improving and not a sign of the competition you've been playing.
Well, and I've said this, like, some of it isn't Lemonis's fault. They had a brutal opening. They had 3 series in a row against top 10 opponents, or essentially top 10 opponents.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not his fault. But if that's the case, this is where you have to make your run. We talked about, you obviously had Memphis and South Carolina this week. We got UAB. Alabama is a tough series. I get that. But then after that, you get Southern. Then you get Florida for a series.
Yep.
You have Ole Miss in a midweek game, and Ole Miss is very good. But then you get Auburn, and Auburn's not a great baseball team either. Then you get Memphis again. Then you get Kentucky in a series right after that. So this is your chance to really start building something, because, Kentucky's 18-11 right now too. They're not a great baseball team either. And so if you don't take advantage of this stretch, which is a large stretch, then those Lemonis being fired chants are going to grow only louder.
Yeah, this is the exact time you have to start to get hot, building into the SEC tournament, which if you string together a bunch of good series, play basically, win 2 out of 3 the rest of the way, go and have a good showing. You're not hosting a regional, but you're making it to that first,
right,
and you're not going to be the 4 seed. You get in there, get things clicking. That's what you have to do. I mean, having a great regular season is kind of out of the window, but you get hot at the right time, then you make it a great season by a deep run.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe you can get some momentum. This series might have been the one that kind of starts that. You carry that momentum over. Now you get into a regional and you make a run at it. Yeah. Otherwise, if you just fall off, then that's going to be, you're gone, Lemonis. Lemonis will be gone if they fall off, because this is, again, this is that stretch. This is your stretch to take advantage of, and they have to do it.
Yeah, and like we've said, things are starting to get better. They didn't have a game where they gave up 11 runs or 12 runs. They were the team that scored 11 runs. They were the team pitching the shutouts this time around. And you hope it's because things are clicking to start, stacking the wins. But you still have to clean up these errors in the wild pitches. Like, they're not like, they're mental errors. You can't have that. And that's, coaching has to figure that out.
Right. And we talked about it early in the season, how that's not a hard thing to fix, but now we're like 2 weeks since we've had that conversation and it still hasn't been fixed. No. And that's the issue.
No, 4 errors and I think 3 wild pitches in a 3-game series.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. No, it is. It's crazy. And it should never happen. And yet it feels like every single weekend it's happening. And that's what has to stop. But all right, well, coming up next. So obviously, before we started this podcast, new facilities got announced. But we want to kind of talk about how new facilities a thing of the past. Obviously, Mississippi State has announced a 10-year plan. So for Mississippi State, it's obviously not. But should it be a thing of the past? We'll talk about that. That's coming up next. All right, well, this is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back. And then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their individual attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. all so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. All right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first to listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right. So we got to talk about this facilities plan. Like I said, this was announced, I think, back in November was when it was initially announced. Then in January, it was announced that this would be a 10-year facilities plan that include renovations to Davis Wade Stadium. There's also like an indoor stadium. I guess there's 15 buildings across campus that are going to get some things done, like the Leo Seal Jr. football complex, Humphrey Coliseum, and Duddy Noble Field, along with obviously Davis Wade Stadium. And this was athletic director Zach Selman kind of announced the whole plan. The thing is that, or should that be a thing in the past? Because with NIL nowadays, a lot of your money has to go to that. I mean, that's how you have to build a winning team nowadays. And it's not just the facilities that are bringing players in anymore. So what is your thoughts on that, Landon? Is it smart to do this plan, especially knowing the landscape of college football?
I mean, I think it can be smart. It just kind of depends on like what your goal is with the facilities. You have to have a certain level of facility to be a good to great program. You have to invest so much in the athletes you're paying to come to your school.
Right.
So I think it is necessary to an extent, but it's no longer, no one's going to a school because of a weight room anymore. It's because of what their NIL deal is. And so you have to adjust. But I mean, upgrades and improvements are always something that you need, whether it's for the athletes themselves, fans going to the games, upgrades for coaches. I mean, all those things have to happen, but you need to be smart about picking your spots.
Well, yes. And some of it are these necessary ones that we just can't push off because of NIL? Like, one of the things we're seeing with a lot of college football teams is this new LED lighting system. That's something that will be installed actually for this upcoming season, for the 2025 season. I mean, Davis Wade Stadium was built in 1914. It's one of the oldest stadiums in college football. So that was something that obviously they felt needed to happen. And that's something that's easy and not super expensive to do. But it also needed, it's talked about how the south end zone would include the MSU locker room, a new suite style seating, a recruiting space, and even loft apartments with a parking garage. Some of that is kind of extensive, but if the locker rooms are that bad that they need a renovation, I mean, some of that stuff still will get guys to come to your school. Right. And I will say this, if you're paying the most and your facilities are trash, you're probably not getting that player also. So there's kind of a balance that you have to do. So there's some things like, are we so far behind facilities wise that we have to make these moves? Or is it one of those things that we're pretty close and we just want to make these moves to push us over the top? That's what teams got to figure out. I'm not just talking about Mississippi State. I'm talking about teams in general. We've seen teams that announce these big plans, but then realize we got to go with NIL because we're already really good facility wise. We don't need to be over the top.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you have to hit that certain level of like competitiveness with what your facilities are, but being the best at any individual thing isn't as important as it was 10 years ago. I mean, but you got to strike the balance. You have to figure out, what do we need to do versus what do we want to do? I mean, everyone wants to have the best weight room, the best whatever. But I mean, upgrades to the recruiting facility, the recruiting area, that's probably a great thing. The apartments also probably a great recruiting tool type thing. Right. So, I mean, those kind of things. And anytime you can upgrade a locker room and, upgrade anything to take pictures for the recruits and their social media, that's also probably right. But I don't know about all the little things that, we used to see all the time. This has been changed. This has been changed. No one cares anymore. I mean, I care as a fan. Fans go to games care, but recruits don't care anymore.
Well, and college football has kind of been a party, so kind of in a party stage now. Like the LED lighting after you score a touchdown, we're seeing that everywhere. And that's the new hip thing, and people love that. So some of that stuff is really good. And I will say the one thing I like about this is it is a 10-year plan. It's spaced out. because we have seen, at least in the past, before NIL happened, that was stuff you would just try to get in one off season, maybe two off seasons, and it with NIL, I think or without NIL, I think that's probably what Mississippi State would have done this time around. We're going to try to pack it into a season or two seasons. But because of NIL, and you have to have some of that money for NIL and some of that money for stuff like that, I think that's why you're seeing it spaced out for 10 years. And that is smart, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. It is smarter, space it out, especially now. You don't have to, you're not going to try to then pass something else the next year anymore.
Yeah.
And we have to wait to see the whole, paying athletes, that ruling and how that is going to affect everything where they can be listed as like employees and all that. I mean, that's going to change things completely again. How is that going to affect all of this going forward?
Right.
So your 10-year plan may become a 15-year plan after that starts happening with however you have to pay the athletes once that's actually settled.
Yeah, and there's some stuff on here that I just don't understand why it's necessary. Like at Duddy Noble Field, obviously they are adding a year-round restaurant. Obviously they're going to add new suites and widen the concourse and additional loft building in left field and a party deck in center field. Like there's some cool things they're doing, but a year-round restaurant, like some of that stuff, I don't know if that's necessary. The indoor facility, practice facility, that's obviously awesome, and that's stuff that a lot of these places need to have if you don't have one, or upgrade if you do have one and it's kind of outdated. So there's some things that I think are smart that they're doing, and then there's other things that I'm like, you probably don't need that, but that's why you space it out for 10 years. That's why you do that.
Yeah, and improving the fan experience is big because then you get more people to give you more money to then either build more things or pay more players. So, I mean, it's kind of just a cycle of doing things like that. And like I said, a lot of what they're doing makes a lot of sense, and it is spaced out. There's just a few of them that it seems it's more of a want than a need, and they definitely fit it in there. And just see how it works out. And, anytime there's a 10-year plan, I mean, anything over like a 2-year plan, you always kind of wonder, how much is this going to change by the time it actually happens?
Right.
So we'll see if everything stays exactly like it is. But a lot of these do seem like, if not necessary, at least very good upgrades.
Yeah, and one thing I really like, and maybe this is just the basketball fan in me, but I really, and this one's kind of slid under the radar. I don't feel like it's talked about that much, but at the basketball arena at Humphrey Coliseum, they're going to elevate the student section, which is currently in the northeast corner. They also want to update the video systems as well, but they're going to elevate the student section almost like now the student section can almost be like on top of the on the court and the players. And I think that is great. And that's stuff I love as a basketball fan, because one of the things I love is watching, the Duke crazies, and they're right in their face and they're doing the hand deals and all that in front of them. I really like that idea. Getting the students on top of the players. Now, students got to show up, but I like that.
Students got to show up, which means you got to put a good basketball team in, which means you need more NIL money. So full circle.
Yeah, which means you got to hit the portal because you got 6 players in it right now. So, but no, I really like that. So I think that's cool. But all right, well, coming up next, we got to give our top dog of the week. You don't want to miss that. That's coming up next.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Surprising insights. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery now. I budget smarter and save more, all in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year.
All right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right. So this is our last segment. We got our top dog of the week. It's Monday. We got to end on a positive note. Landon, you're up first.
All right. Well, I didn't want to get into it too much when I was talking about the offense for the baseball team, so I was saving it for this part. I went with Noah Sullivan. Home run and 2 RBIs Saturday, solo home run Sunday. Talked about the offense waking up. Right. He was a big part of it.
Yeah, he was a big part of it. And this is the first time it's happened, but we had the same top dog of the week. Maybe we should talk about it.
I think we should start talking about it.
Yeah, because we haven't had that happen yet. I was going to go with Noah Sullivan. I thought about going softball just because they did run rule Tennessee one of the games.
That's not easy to do.
No, it's not. Tennessee's one of the best programs in all of softball. And, Mississippi State's right up there with them. They're 31-10 on the year. It was such a weird weekend for them because they got run ruled the first game of the series, 8-0, 5 innings done. Then they beat Tennessee 12-4 in 6 innings. And then they turned around and lost 8-0 in 5 innings the next game. So it was kind of a weird series, but I'll go with Delaney Everett because she did pitch a heck of a game in the Mercy Rule the first game. First off, they scored 8 runs in the first inning in that game, jumped up 8-0. Yeah, so they had 2 home runs in that inning. So it was obviously a great game for them, but it's just they weren't able to keep it going. Raylan Chafin got beat around pretty good in the third game and also in the first game. And then obviously we talked about how they need to have some depth at pitching, and she didn't pitch the second game, and Delaney Everett pitched a great game. And she's 9-0 on the season. So maybe she can be that kind of complimentary to her.
Yeah, she can. And that's such a hard series to judge because like you mentioned, Tennessee is such a good team, right. And you beat them up one game, but they got you the other 2. It's the really good teams that got teams at the top of softball. Just every now and then, they just remind you that there's just such a tier gap between those top, 4 or 5 teams and the rest of the world. But hey, shout out to the girls just taking it to them that one game.
Yeah, and I didn't really mention her stats. She pitched 4 innings. She allowed 3 earned runs, 4 hits, but she had 7 strikeouts. She was really, really good. Lexi Sosa came in, so we can kind of give a dual maybe top dog of the week because she came in. She allowed 3 hits, but no runs in her 2 innings. But she didn't end up getting any strikeouts. But she pitched a really good game as well. So really both pitchers can get the top dog of the week. But yeah, no, I thought Delaney Everett was really good in that game. Like I said, 7 strikeouts. Tennessee as a team had 3, and they pitched 3 different girls in that game. So she had more than them as the whole other team. So that's always positive.
Yeah. And, we both could have picked a number of people from the baseball team this weekend with the amount of runs they put up there. Sullivan was not the only one who had a big weekend. He just, he spread it out all weekend doing stuff. Just a couple runs in the first game, the 2 home runs, really pacing the offense. So, hey, it was some big highs this past weekend on the diamond, but also a few lows.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, I was kind of looking at the Tennessee stats. They had 13 strikeouts through all 3 games combined. And then, like I said, Everett had 7 in one game. So that just shows, first off, how good, they didn't get any runs, but Mississippi State played pretty well this weekend. Yeah. It's just, they couldn't get on the board. They weren't struck out, which, that's, those kind of things are kind of fluky sometimes. It just, if you get struck out or not. But she played really well. We'll see if they can bounce back from that, because that was, really they played Texas the weekend before. They went 1-2 in that series. They go 0-3 against 1-2 against Tennessee. Sorry, they got Missouri this upcoming week, and then they go to Oklahoma. The first game against Oklahoma is in Oklahoma City, and then the last 2 will be in Norman. So it doesn't get easy for softball. We talked about baseball, how it doesn't get easy. It doesn't get easy for softball either.
No, it's not. The SEC softball became a juggernaut real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And it didn't get easy for baseball to start the year. Obviously, we talked about it's about to get easier for them, but that's what's about to happen with Mississippi State. They're about to hit that rough patch. But we'll see if they can bounce back from that one. It was a tough series, but all in all, they're playing really good softball this year, and they have a lot to be proud of.
Yes, they're playing well, and they're proving they can hang with the top teams at every weekend. They're winning a game, and in the other ones, they just can't. They're just not quite there yet. But hey, if you're in the game that you get in the tournament, you only got to beat them once sometimes.
Well, and you played the number 1 team and the number 7 team in the country, and you won 1 game in each series. That's what you could ask for, and they did that. So now you're going to eventually play the number 2 team. Again, out on the road, win a game in that series. That's against those teams, win a game. Just try to get a game. If you can get the series, that's awesome, but try to get the game. Just don't get swept, and that's what they've done so far. So, all right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. As your favorite collegiate players get ready for the next level, get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron. Check out my work over on Athlon Sports. There's my @ Search me on Twitter. Give me a follow. There's Landon. His social media is right there as well. Follow Locked On Mississippi State on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Last I looked, we still weren't up and running on our website that we get all of our clips for social media. But I'll try to look at it again today and see if we can't figure something out and get some of those posted again. But follow us on at least YouTube, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about us. We're back full time, so we hope you enjoyed it. But until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.